You're listening to XSGaming Podcast, a podcast for gamers by gamers, with your hosts Xander and James Gruesome, bringing you something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever time you guys are checking us out, and welcome back to another episode of XSGaming Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Xander Scullion, and joined with me is my wonderful co-host, Mr. James Gruesome. What's up, James?
Greetings and salutations. Forgive me if I sound a little bit slower, as I have gained another year upon life. And, the old age is hitting old Gruesome here. So if I've slowed down a bit, please forgive me. But, life goes on, so it should be okay.
Indeed. How was your birthday, man?
Really not bad. For me, it was on a Sunday. Is it last? Yeah, I guess it was last Sunday. I think. I'm, pretty sure. So, usually I chill out on Sundays, and not too much different, except I picked every movie. Usually I will give my wife options, or we'll watch something else, and I picked everything. I started off with the classic Kingdom of the Spiders with William Shatner that you all should check out if you think that sounds interesting, because it's an awesome movie. We watched that. We watched a horrible movie called Devilfish. The only thing I was kind of excited about was the soundtrack, which was by Fabio Frizzi. He did a lot of Lucio Fulci movies, like Zombie and such. He worked with him. But the movie was it was terrible. And then we finished off with, if you ever buy something specifically for your birthday, like I went and looked for a movie that I really wanted to see. And there was a movie called The Uncanny. Mm-hmm. It was an Amicus anthology, which Amicus did the original Tales from the Crypt movie and Vault of Horror. Those are, two of the more well-known titles, and they've done quite a bit more, if you like the anthologies of, the different stories. And The Uncanny was all about cats, and me and you, we both have cats, and I was pretty excited about this. And I could say it really lived up to the potential of a movie that you bought specifically for your birthday. Because, I'd never seen it. It was finally out on, Blu-ray or even DVD. It was really not available up until then. Maybe old VHS copies. But it was one I'd never seen. And honestly, it just capped off, a pretty chill day. Because I thought it was a pretty outstanding movie. Had a little light breakfast. I got to pick dinner, which I went with the pot roast, with
good
the
choice.
Potatoes and carrots. Yeah, that's a food, honestly, I've come to the realization, if I had to pick a meal, if I only have one meal for the rest of my life, I think I could deal with that. Maybe I would have a little bit more vegetables, maybe some type of greenery, some collards or something like that. But it's really a tough meal to beat, and it's very easy. So my wife was like, "Oh yeah, sure." So we had that, chilled out, watched movies. I did wake up early in the morning and I watched some wrestling because the prior weekend was pretty big wrestling weekend. AEW, one of the new upstart promotions, they had a big show. NXT UK had a pay-per-view, and they're getting ready to go head-to-head. Upcoming, some are saying, new wrestling war. It's just very interesting. But I watched some, a lot of. Actually, that was the weekend before my birthday. I watched that, and I finished up because there was so much wrestling. Sometimes you just gotta spread it out. So I watched some of the Japanese show. Then I did my movies, had my pot roast, and it was a really good day. Nothing out of the ordinary. I don't really go crazy. It's not a huge deal, but I could say I couldn't imagine it really going any better. It was just a nice, fun day up into the. I'm 41 now, so it's all. And it's not really all downhill. That'll be maybe at 45. I think it'll be all downhill from there. Until then, I'm going to try to live as good as I can.
Indeed, indeed. I'm glad you had a good birthday. I mean, a lot has happened since the last time we recorded an episode. I mean, we went through a hurricane, Hurricane Dorian. It wasn't that big of a. It wasn't like Florence last year. I mean, I didn't even lose power during the hurricane. It was just like a severe thunderstorm. That's what it felt like. I pretty much, we went to sleep with the fan on. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to wake up with the fan off, and we're going to have no power watch. And I woke up and the fan was still on. So that was good. And during the hurricane, though, there was a Nintendo Direct, and it was kind of bittersweet because during that Nintendo Direct, of course, Nintendo announced that, it's their 1-year anniversary of Switch Online, and to celebrate, they decided to put SNES games on the online marketplace as part of the Nintendo Switch Online service. Like, you get the free SNES games. It was like 20 titles, so I was really excited about that. Downloaded it as soon as it went live, because I'm like, if I lose power, I want to play some Super Nintendo games, and been having a lot of fun with that. Have you been checking that out, James?
I mean, I could say honestly, it took me a minute to find it. I heard about it initially. I thought it was a really good lineup, considering, Nintendo Online has caught a little bit of, grief from some people that it's, oh, it's not the greatest, it's not this or that. They've been steadily putting out games on the NES, not always the greatest ones, but I appreciated what they were doing. And, I don't get as angry about stuff as some people. I thought the lineup of Super NES games was pretty amazing, knocking out these, about 20 games that were all, some top tier stuff, a little bit of other things mixed in. Really cool. I could say it took me a minute to find it. I was kind of looking on the NES online because I didn't know if it was attached to that. I didn't actually know, had to go into the store and go into it because I'm older now and I'm slower, and it took me a little bit to figure it out. But I did finally figure out where it was, and I got it downloaded. And like I said, I haven't really played a lot of it yet, but I did get it downloaded. And like I said, I think it's a stellar lineup. It's a really good mix. Like I said, outstanding classics, top tier titles, a little bit of other things thrown in. I might have gone with Rival Turf over Brawl Brothers, but I mean, that's a really lower tier argument, I think, to give to that. But overall, I thought it was cool. And I will say that renewal option, it is coming up. It's a pending debit on my account, just so everybody knows. It just happened, I think, today. So depending on when you hear this, if you are signed up on the recurring renewal thing, make sure you check out, because that $21.39 or whatever it is, will be on your account very soon.
Oh, and yeah.
I don't really mind. Like I said, dude, it's $20 for 12 months, and like I said, it's got the online, a lot of games. I'm not super critical of it. I think it's pretty cool. And like I said, I decided to keep on with it, and we'll, see how it goes from there.
Yeah, I really like it. I think the lineup is pretty solid. I mean, the 20 games. And one of the things I actually really like about it is the rewind feature. It was a feature they added, I think, maybe a month and a half ago. They added onto this service. They did with the NES games. And it was kind of nice, playing some games. I'm like, oh, let me just rewind that. Or I know one of the games, especially that me and my girlfriend have been playing, is the other day we played Super Mario World, and we played it from from the beginning to the very end. We unlocked all 96 stages, just beat the game. We played it for probably about 2 or 3 hours. We just sat there and just popped some popcorn and just played some Super Mario World. And I think it's pretty good. And when you really break it down, $20 a year, that's like $1.66 a month. It's dirt cheap. And of course, like you said, you don't get as mad as some other people. I know some people they were so upset about the lineup. They wanted Earthbound, they wanted all these other games. And if Nintendo keeps up what they're doing, next month we might have Earthbound, or we might have some of the titles that people want if Nintendo continues to update the lineup every month. So
yeah, that's kind of the key, because they have said we had that same, we'd get 3 games a month, and there'd be that slight ROM hack or whatever it was. That was kind of, useless to a lot of us, I'm sure. But still, they had that, but they said they're not sticking to that commitment. And though that might throw some off, I think it might be a better value in the long run, because I think maybe they'll hit us with more at one time. Maybe things will be spread out a little bit more. I think eventually you're going to get those titles that you really want. Like I said, it was a really solid 20 lineup collection from the start. I remember talking to someone else that had mentioned the EDF game, because someone didn't know what it was. They don't know what EDF is. Haven't they played the new ones? And I'm like, well, it's not the it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
And they told me, they said, well, yeah, technically it's not. I'm like, yeah, it's not even technically. It's not the same thing. It's not that EDF that, I have, mentioned, and heralded before, because that is a great series. But, this one is just, a typical, side scroller shoot 'em up game that is not connected to the, EDF, every other giant bug invasion game we've had. That's not the same thing. Still a cool one, I think, to throw on. I'm curious always to see like what they will add. But as far as Nintendo titles, I think they really threw out, a lot of top tier, and it still leaves it open, for so many other titles. And of course, it has a lot of the, online features where you can play with other people. And like I said, I'm looking forward to what they will hit us with. Like I said, I really can't compliment that initial 20 games enough. I think they really made up for a lot of, some would consider subpar as far as the NES Online. They were attached, to certain publishing companies, and I think we did get some cool stuff. But I thought they really hit us with a good lineup, and I think it could only be, kind of up from there. And maybe, some other, like I said, EDF, I think was a really cool one to throw in, because it's not a title you would really maybe expect to see. So it was a good little mixture. Like I said, Revel Turf, maybe I would have preferred that, but I'm a big mark for that game. But Brawl Brothers, it's in that series, not the one I would have gone with, but I still think it's cool to see that, IP represented in the initial lineup.
Indeed. And we're going to get in some more Super Nintendo talk as we get into the main topic, because the main topic of this episode is we're going to be talking about some Super Nintendo like memories and stuff like that. But while we were in the process of being between episodes of recording, two big gaming events happened. It was Tokyo Game Show and Gamecom. And, these shows are like pretty much like mini E3s. They're really big. And of course they showed off, Final Fantasy VII, the remake. One of the biggest things they added to it is it's going to have a classic mode. So it's going to have that turn-based kind of classic feel. And I know that made a lot of people happy. This is one of those games that, was initially announced at E3 back in 2015. And it's went through so much over the years that some people have even like debated, like, is this even going to come out for the PlayStation 4? And it is. It's going to be coming out, I believe, in March 2020. And it seems like it's all coming together. It seems really awesome. That was really cool. But one of the games that they've been showing off that we definitely want to talk about is, of course, Yakuza 7. Yakuza 7's coming out next year. It's going to have a new protagonist. It's not going to have Kiryu. That chapter is done for now. And it's going to have a new gameplay style. It's not going to be your standard brawler action game like the previous 6, but it's going to be more of a turn-based RPG, which is kind of weird because it was kind of hinted during April Fools. Like RGG Studios actually put that out back on April Fools, and everyone thought it was just a joke, but it's reality. And I wanted to get your 2 cents on that, James. What do you think about this jump and change style from the Yakuza series, from turn-based, from the, beat 'em up style,
I mean, I will say, you might have think I caught this as soon as it happened. I literally watched it before the show. I had a few late days at work, and we were originally going to record on Sunday, and I pushed off because I had some things to do with my wife, and we went with this day. I watched it beforehand, and I got to say, I was actually more excited than I thought I would be. This is a game, and you can say they have, this is 7, but there's been 6 games, 7 counting 0. We had a couple remakes. We did have Kenzan and Ishin in Japan, a little more samurai based, but still, it's the same feel. And I think, it's kind of like a new beginning. Like you said, Kiryu is kind of done. Like, we're kind of done with him, and it's time for a new chapter. And it's really interesting. The things I saw, at first, I did see some, guys still running around and bashing in windows. So I think you're still going to have a little bit of that, interactive feel. But during these fights, I mean, the one thing I've always loved about Yakuza is the wackiness.
Yes.
And I really saw the wackiness stand out. And the wackiness was last times relegated to the the side missions in past games. And it just seems like it's full on. This is a wacky game. And you got to understand, like I said, I've been playing this since 2005, and I've seen arguments where people are like, this looks awesome. And people are like, oh, I bet you just started playing Zero. And like you start seeing people like attack others for the Yakuza love. And
yeah, I hate that, actually.
Yeah, it's something I kind of hold, because like I never tried to gatekeep this series. I always tried to talk about it. And I'll joke around like, yeah, I've been playing this since 2005, but hey, I'll be the first one to say, I'm not the first one, I'm sure, but I'll be one of the, big proponents of it to say, like, maybe it is time for a change, because we've had so many games that are this beat 'em up. It is this fight style, which I love, but why not change it up?
Yeah.
Why not? What hurts? Because the thing is, I had Yakuza spread out over so many years, and I kind of hate to say it, but there might have almost been maybe too many Yakuza type games in a short period of time, to where I could see someone that started playing it maybe getting a little burnout.
No, I agree with you, because you got to think, after Zero, we've had since like 2016, we've had like 2 or 3 RGG Studio games come out. Like we had Yakuza 0, and then Kiwami came out. Then you had like Fist of North Star. You had Kiwami 2. You had Yakuza 6. You had Judgment. You had all these games come out, and I remember seeing people who were getting into the series start to get kind of that series fatigue. So to go from that to Yakuza 7, with the turn-based RPG, I feel like this is kind of a good little step. And what better way than a new chapter,
Exactly. You get off on that fresh start, and like you said, it was so much in such a short period of time, to where even myself, I've not, and I feel bad saying it, like I didn't finish 6 yet. I didn't finish Judgment. You got to throw Judgment in there too. That was pretty much a Yakuza game. To where I see this, and this looks fresh, and like that wackiness is just it's like in your face from the start. Like I said, it's not relegated to the side missions. Just all the combat things I saw is like spraying wine on people. You still have the different modes. Like there's still so much of Yakuza, where it's a dance move, kind of like one of Majima's fight styles. It's all in there, to where I'm looking at it, and like I said, I see the guy running around is breaking windows, so I think it's got some interaction, where you can run around and do that. But then the actual battles look a bit different. And to me, I'm not the biggest RPG fan. I did love them early on. The last one I really, really loved was Costume Quest. And, it was, a little wacky, to where I see this. And I remember you telling me, they're like, dude, it's got like kart racing.
Yeah.
And I see it. And I think it's like you've got this cool RPG mode that just looks completely whacked out. I think, we can say, if the Yakuza series, like it takes the wackiness and it goes. I saw somebody fighting like a giant bulldozer or something. It's just, it's crazy. The kart racing, it's got the gambling. I saw they had like a Fist of the North Star slot machine, which they threw in that connection because they did the Fist of the North Star games. And it looks new. It looks different. It's something, and like, if you hate this, then, you still got a whole ton of Yakuza games, you can play, you can go back and play. Like I said, Part 5, the thing I liked about Part 5, I really loved the Haruka, dance scenarios, because it switched it up, and I saw some rhythm stuff. Looked like the guy was having a dream, in the ad for it, and that had some of the rhythm stuff really added in. Like I think this thing is really going to be amazing. I've trusted this team since the beginning. I love them, and I think it's something. It's one of those games that say, really just give it a chance. If you've trusted these guys before and you've loved all their other games, why not give it a try? Because so many of us, and maybe you didn't, but so many of us still have a love for certain RPGs from the past we grew up with, and then maybe this could, recapture that spirit of it. It's so different. It's just so wacky. after I watched it, man, like I said, I really was looking more forward to it than I thought I even would, just for that huge change up. Like I said, it's just sometimes it's time for a change, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you could go back to the like I said, the one I was not the biggest fan of, the Yakuza. Shit, what is it?
Dead Souls.
Dead Souls. I was not the biggest fan of it because to me it was almost a step back. It felt a little bit archaic, where this I think feels a little bit more fresh. And even though it seems completely different, I think if people just gave it more of a chance, don't be so quick to hate it. I mean, if you have played Yakuza since 2005 and you think you hate it, I mean, I can't really fault you. But I would still hope that if you did play it since back then, that you would try it.
Yeah.
Just why not? Like I said, it is time for a change up. We've had so many, and I think much like Resident Evil, how I think there'll be different, versions of that floating around. If you like that first person, you like the remakes, you like Revelations.
Yeah, one of the things they speaking of Resident Evil, one of the things they did announce is the Return of the Outbreak series, that online co-op.
Exactly. There's room for different versions of a series you love, and I think that's what these developers are going for. They have to appeal to new audiences, different audiences. They got to change things up. They still want to go to that core audience, but just give it a chance and let these different versions exist, and at least give it a shot. And then if you hate it, hey, don't play it. And there will be another beat 'em up Yakuza. I don't think they're going to abandon that style, whether it's something like Fist of North Star, Judgment. That version of that game will live on, but at least let it, morph and evolve and, accept it and, give it a shot, because you might actually have fun with it, because it just, like I said, it looked fun and wacky.
Yeah,
that's
and
what I like.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to add too, if you're new to the Yakuza series and you've played 0, Kiwami 1 and 2, maybe you dabbled in the 6, keep in mind as well, next year, not only are we getting Yakuza 7, like I said, it seems like every year we're getting more and more RGG Studio games. We're also going to be getting, Yakuza 3 is already out on the PSN store, but they're going to be making a Yakuza HD collection, and we'll have 3, 4, and 5.
Finally.
Yeah, which I pre-ordered that. I pre-ordered a special edition because it was only like $60, and I thought it was kind of funny. It comes with a box. It comes with an extra box, a PS3 box of Yakuza 5, which I thought was kind of cool, that you could add to your PS3 collection. But you'll still get a physical copy of 3, 4, and 5 for the PS4. So I was like, yeah, for $60, why not?
No, you can't lose. Like I said, it's just you still have those options of old games. I know many of you guys have not ever played 5, and that one is still that's actually my favorite. Mixing it, I still think it has the best fishing, which I didn't think was as great on 0. It has hunting, it has the Haruka, dance levels. You like J-pop music, gives you that. 5, the damn taxi driving is, racing missions, which kind of throws in, like we said, with the kart racing on the new one, which is just always fun. I'm looking forward to a change, in the whole series. Yeah. Like I said, to me, it being a, OG with it, it's really going nothing but up, and you'll still have that, Judgment 2. I'm sure that's going to happen. You will have those beat 'em up options, just like, don't hate on it just because it's different. Give it a shot. You don't like it, you don't have to play it. There will be those old school, Yakuza options, I think, to play. And it's just, it shows them, morphing and evolving as a company, and, trying to look at different aspects and just give you a kind of different outlet of a way to play.
Now this is a good segue, because you said changing it up. And this is another part of the news I want to talk about, and that is Gamestop. Now, Gamestop it's been in the news the past week or so. First off, GameStop's closing 200 stores worldwide. I don't want to say worldwide, but 200 stores in America, including Canada. They're closing 200 stores. They're hurting for money, which a lot of people talk about. GameStop's going out of business. They talk about that frequently. But GameStop's also changing their store their style, I should say. They posted a video of the new quote-unquote GameStop in Texas. I think it was El Paso, which I believe that's where GameStop corporate is from. It's from Texas, and it's a different kind of GameStop. It's more of a loungy, let's hang out kind of GameStop. It was kind of interesting because the store was a lot more open. It was a lot more spacious. I mean, a lot of GameStops you go into is very crowded with a bunch of merch, pop figures coming up, hitting you in the head. There's like a big, pyramid of pop figures and Think Geek stuff, but it seemed to be a little bit more open. They had a lounge area where tables for folks can be playing tabletop games and tournaments. And with that being said, they had a bunch of CRTs hooked up with like N64s and GameCubes. I'm thinking it's going to be for like Smash Brother tournaments and like these nice like PC, chairs, like gamer chairs that looked really, really nice. And they're going to be selling snacks. I mean, it seems like almost to be your, after school hangout area, and maybe a more intimate with the employers. Like they're not just spitting out, hey, you want to pre-order this? Like they're more like hanging out with you and stuff. And I think it's kind of interesting that they're bringing almost like this mom and pop shop back with GameStop. And what do you think about this, James? Have you had a chance to see the video by any chance?
I've seen some. I've seen some clips of it. They have had this retro program for a while where obviously they've been, taking in games. And I've heard, more about that than wanting to sell more of those in store, because that was really, more of an online function they were doing. I think that's the way they need to go. I've said a while back, yes, there are too many. There are way too many GameStops. And I always thought they should have, consolidated, sell some of this, older product. It's still very hot. People still want to buy that. And if you guys got this inventory, don't just leave it, online. Have that, gives that old school feel of setups. I remember Putt-Putt, you could, rent games by the hour. You could play TurboGrafx, Nintendo. Stop chewing on my cable, kitten, please. And, they do that sometimes. And, I like that new idea because, like I said, there are too many in one area. And, I hate the fact that people lose jobs. There's lots of videos. One guy in particular, I know the Camelot guy has been one of the bigger ones who had, worked at GameStop. And I found his story kind of interesting at first. And, the more and more it becomes a little bit more, trite as it goes on. Some of it is still interesting, but a lot of us do, we don't hate GameStop. We still go there. And like I said, I hate for these people to lose jobs. I hate for anybody, for that to happen to. And it seems to be kind of going on a rampant pace lately. And, I would like to see some more changes. There do need to be some more consolidation. I do like the Think Geek products, in the store. I like that extra option of just, kind of all this little geeky stuff together. It's always fun. I've often bought, figures and other, accoutrements along with games at them. But spacious, once again, like you said, spacious is the key, because a lot of GameStops do feel a little cramped, a little cluttery. I think some changes, could be made, pretty easily. And hopefully they just don't, lose the big picture of the whole thing and it all falls. But, I hope they can figure, something out with it. And like I said, a little lounge area to, try out some of these, older games. Like that would be cool, because that takes me back, to when I was a kid and I had that option, which you don't really see, as much. Once in a while you get like an in-store display, of a new game, a promo. But if you could go and like, hey, I want to try out, this game. Bring out that, GameStop has all this goddamn old merch just stashed in the back.
Yeah.
That's probably not doing anything, and they're kind of sitting on it, and they really need to, get this product just out to more of the people. Like, I mean, come on. If they had a PS2 section at your GameStop, you would probably look at it.
Oh, yeah. You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of the revival of Funkoland, which GameStop bought out. Like when I saw that layout, it made me think of the back in the day going to Funkoland, because that was one of the things that Funkoland had. It had all these TVs that you could play all these old consoles. And the interesting thing is, especially when they mention tabletop gaming, is that's actually pretty big. especially my town. I mean, I know people that go to, like, say, Cape Fear Games here in town, and they go there to play like Magic the Gathering, and they do that like every Saturday night. They're like, hey, let's go out. It's a Magic night. We're gonna go out to Cape Fear Games and play Magic the Gathering. And you think about it, like, my only concern is I want GameStop to be able to do something where they can have people lounge and have fun. But at the same time, they're going to have to find a way to have people lounge, but at the same time, spend money at the same time. Because if it becomes too much of a hangout spot and they don't make any money, that's kind of bad for them. But at the same time, I mean, it's going to feel more intimate, in my opinion. It's going to feel more like you're going into a store to hang out and buy things instead of the classic. Oh, I hate going to GameStop because I go in there and the first thing they ask me is, "Hey, you have any trades?" So. It's going to be kind of interesting to see what GameStop does with this. I don't know if they're going to be doing this to all their stores or maybe just the bigger stores or what they're doing. Maybe this is why they closed 200 stores down because they're going to revamp. I don't know. It's interesting, though.
I mean, in my town, my area between, Fayetteville, Hope Mills, Fort Bragg, Spring Lake, it's all kind of the same. I mean, we have probably almost 10 GameStops.
Yeah.
And some are very, very close to each other. So I think, just having that area, I often thought, as far as like, they need to work on their trade values. As far as, there's so many collectors nowadays. You need to have different options. People just don't want a disc nowadays. They want the whole thing. You're going to have to, give different options, I think, for trade-in, as far as if you have the whole game. If not, it's so much easier to be like, oh, it's the same thing no matter what. But a lot of people will walk away if you don't have that case and that cover. You need to have that, whether it's, some old school games, a little bit more acceptable just to have the cart. We don't expect to have the box with Super Mario Brothers, but you expect to have a case for Tony Hawk 5, which I can say I bought recently, and they did not have a case for. I just kind of wanted to play it. It was cheap. I bought it. But, like I said, with trade-in value, you should get more if you have the instruction booklet, the cover, the case. If you only have the disc, that should be way less. It should reflect in the price also, to where I should be able to get that, I think, much cheaper. With the wave of digital gaming, you got to have more options. I think there's so many ways they could work this, but you never know who's behind the scenes running these companies and what they actually know. These people are some are not gamers. A lot of people that work there are, and they catch the fallout from all this crap. You just got to remember, those people that work there love games too. They're just, kind of a wing on the eagle, and they can't really change things. So don't take it out on them, but hopefully GameStop will see a big change for the better, and it could work out for the best. They've really got to work on it. Like I said, it's a company. They don't want to fail. Lots of jobs at stake that have already been lost. And like I said, for the employees especially, I really hope it works out and it ends up being a more fun place to work and for people to go to, because that will in turn draw more people there if it's a fun experience.
Yeah, and the big picture of it. And I made a pretty short video on my channel about it, and I was talking about because I initially made the video talking about GameStop losing money, and the big picture of it, and I try to explain this to a lot of people, is as much as we all collectively as gamers, I mean, I know you and I don't feel this way, but a lot of people hate GameStop, because it's the big corporate, they don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. But the big picture is this is the largest retailer for physical media. And I know there's mom and pop shops out there. I know there's Walmart, there's Best Buy, Amazon especially. But this is like the largest retailer of going into a store and buying physical media. And that's one of the reasons why deep down I don't want GameStop to fail, because a lot of people don't realize that smaller towns that have a GameStop, that's like their only video game store other than Walmart and Target and Best Buy, which no matter what store that is, they never have the biggest selection as opposed to GameStop. And most importantly, they don't sell used games. I think Best Buy might still sell used games. I know Best Buy was doing that for a little while. I don't know if they're still doing it, but one of the reasons why I like going into GameStop is that instant gratification, going in there, buying a game, and if I find it used for, $10 cheaper, getting that. I mean, I'm 33. I'm still not the biggest fan of online shopping. I like going into places and buying it right then and there. And to see a place like GameStop go down, I mean, it sends flashbacks of like Toys R Us, things are changing and it sucks,
Yeah. It can be sad that you can go by me as many times as I mentioned Edward McKay on this show in the past. They no longer exist in my area. It was one of my absolute favorite stores.
Loved Edward McKay's.
Yeah, and like I said, the people at GameStop that work there, a lot of them, they really do know games. And Best Buy, they did have the used thing for a while, and if most of y'all probably saw and went there, like, it was pretty horrible because there was, like, you think GameStop has, like, bad prices and this and that. Yeah, Best Buy was even worse because they would have complete crap you could get for, $3 at GameStop would still be $30. And, I mean, you might be able to sneak them for a trade-in maybe and get more for a crap game, but, I mean, sometimes you do got to work the system. But, Best Buy, you're not going to run into as much, I think, as that person you could at a GameStop that really, knows their stuff. And people like to knock them. They don't want to give the people credit. But a lot of them are gamers, too. And, I've met a lot of them, a lot of ones I talk to. And like I said, usually if you know the guys or girls that work there, they don't give you the, you want to reserve this, you want to reserve this.
Yeah.
Usually will leave you alone. And like I do try to do those online surveys, and I try to give them good credit because I know that's what they're supposed to do. Like, did they offer you this or that? I say, yes, they did, because that survey takes just a couple minutes. Maybe I help somebody out. Maybe I win some free shit. I haven't yet. Hopefully, maybe I will one day. I will fill them out because they just take a couple minutes. And like I said, I really do like the people that usually work there, and they're just trying to have a job and make a living, and like I don't really want to take that away from anybody.
I was about to say, James, if you won that like $1,000 GameStop gift card, what's one of the first things you would get with that?
Man, it would probably it'd probably be some of them stupid wrestling figures they've been doing. Those ones that look like they're in the arcade game, because sometimes I buy them when they're on sale. Mm-hmm. If you wait a little bit, you can get them, and it's like I would definitely buy those. I would probably just go around and buy just a whole bunch of like random crap. I'm always down for controllers. I would probably buy another controller with one of those because I love those. Maybe those big fancy ones, that they have now. But like I said, I haven't won yet. But I don't give up. I keep trying. GameStop, they're never going to give up either.
I think if I had the $1,000 GameStop gift card, I think the first thing I'd probably get. I don't know. I'd probably get a bunch of like. I'd probably get a couple of Joy-Cons because I really wish I could get more than one like set. I really want to take the yellow Joy-Cons a lot. I'd probably get some of those and some games, especially some games I've like missed out on for the past couple of years. Because I feel like, man, I feel like the past like 3 years have just been insane for gaming. I have so many games that's been out in 2017, 18, hell, 2016, I still haven't even played yet, that I haven't even had a chance to play. So that's something I would do. But closing up the gaming news before we get to our main topic is Nintendo versus the internet. I made a footnote list of topics. And this was kind of interesting, Nintendo and emulation sites. I mean, they fight. Every year it seems like a ROM site's under fire, and this one was called ROM Universe. And Nintendo put the gavel down on this site. And the interesting thing about this is, last year was, I think, like ROM Universe or ROM Unlimited, or it was one of those
ROMs, one of those ones.
Yeah, it was one of those sites. But the interesting about that site compared to this one is the one in the past, it was mostly old Nintendo stuff, like NES, Super Nintendo, and 64. Where ROM Universe, you go on the front page and they had Nintendo Switch ROMs. And it was kind of one of those things that made me kind of laugh, because I had a lot of folks that when I was sharing the news story, being like, "Oh, Nintendo being Nintendo, taking down, stuff they won't sell to anybody, blah blah blah." And I'm just kind of like, "Well, wait a minute, I'm a big fan of emulation. I love ROMs. I feel like it's a big part of gaming preservation and a digital archive aspect of it. But they had games on there that were like a day old, like seriously came out yesterday, that were on this website for downloads. And that's where I kind of draw the line a little bit, and I'm a little bit more on Nintendo's side, because I'm like, the Nintendo Switch is still in production. And they're not just Nintendo games from the Switch that were on that website, but there were indie titles for the Switch that were on that, which I had a big problem with, because, I do a lot of reviews on indie games. I talk to a lot of indie developers, and some of these folks have spent like 5 years making a game, and like these people are like too cheap to spend $20 to buy the game because they just want to download it.
Yeah, that, or even less many a times. And these are the people, like you said, these really, at the end of the day, you might not think of them that way, but they're people just like us.
Yeah.
They're not backed, with some huge company behind them. And I'm with you. Like I said, older games, especially, movie properties we've mentioned, things like that will never get a re-release. Emulate it all you want. But stuff that just came out, like, man, you got to give these guys a break. Me, like I said, I'm notorious for waiting. Like I said, I'll buy a game on Switch. Next week it'll be on sale. So sometimes I wait. I have learned the lesson to where I do wait, but at the end of the day, these are art. Like you said, mom and pop stores. These are mom and pop businesses at the end, and you're really, really affecting people by doing that. And I think those sites definitely should be shut down. Like I said, I don't care. Some old Terminator game or whatever. Come on, emulate it. You can. I don't even care if you sell a console with it on it, honestly. But stuff that just came out, man, you got to give that, some time to, come out and sit. Like, just don't rip them off from the start. You got to give some of these guys a chance. I'm with you. I think that's wrong. A lot of us, some people have that they just don't care. Some of us do have, some morals to where we'll try to support others and what they're doing. Just imagine what some of these companies, what they start off with, what they could become if you don't steal from them, which is what that is. So, like, I'm fully for Nintendo shutting down things like that, current system stuff. Once in a while, if you want to get something, like, okay, big major things. Hey, if you know how to snag it, I'm not going to hate on you, but it's these smaller guys, like you really are. You're kind of stomping on the future of gaming.
Yeah,
like I said,
that's how I look at it.
Yeah, imagine some of these, guys, the guy that worked on Resident Evil, just imagine him, like, stomping him out at the beginning and, like, what you might have stopped. It's like some Back to the Future fading out pictures of your family. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, it's like a faded picture of, like, Miyamoto, like, slowly fading away,
Just think about it.
Yeah.
Pick and choose. Like I said, if you want to, steal from, like, bigger companies, I'm not going to hate on you as much. But these indie guys, man, like, come on.
Yeah.
Pay the $5 or $10, just give them a little something, help them, like I said, because those guys really are the future of gaming. Like I said, it can sound like we're joking about it, but it's like, hey, it's like that really is. Some of these guys, they'll create the next, Symphony of the Night, games like that, the next Zelda, and you're really just crushing a lot of them. It's just like, just take it easy, go anything 20 years and beyond, hell, maybe even 30 at this point. But just don't steal the current shit. Like, that's just, I don't know. That's just wrong to me. And like I said, a lot of us do have that, morals. Some could laugh at us for that, but it's like, that's what it is. Like, these guys need a chance to thrive and get some money back in return, so they can work on that next, masterpiece, that next game that we all will, really be clamoring to play.
Yeah, it's like Blazing Chrome. It's a great example. Blazing Chrome is done by Joy Masher, and Joy Masher is a two-person team. That was made by two people, and I've talked to them a lot on Twitter, and they're really nice folks. They're big Misfit fans. I thought was kind of funny because one of the characters in Blazing Chrome's named Doyle, and I'm like, hey, I'm like, hey, someone likes the Misfits, but yeah, you realize that these are people. It's not just corporate suits that are sitting in a room being like, when can we make the next game? I mean, these are probably people that you would hang out with on a regular basis anyway, that love video games, that make video games now, which is freaking awesome. But getting into the main topic, because I wanted us to talk a little bit about some Super Nintendo memories with Super Nintendo games coming out for the Switch. I'm like, oh, this would be great. So I'm going to ask you, James, what was the first experience you had with the Super Nintendo?
I mean, the first time I really full on remember, it was probably like my own, getting that Super Nintendo, which had Mario World, and that was the one game I had. I didn't have anything else with it, and back then you didn't need anything else.
Yeah.
A Mario title would set you for months and months. Really, I mean, you would probably go rent something else, which I would bring into after having Mario. The first experience I do remember renting a game on the Super NES, was Draken.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have a full complete in-box Draken, which is probably worth $5, which is what I paid for it. And that game is one which there is a sequel to it. I've mentioned it in the past before. It is called Dragon View. And that's one that's been out on a couple companies. Can't remember the exact name, but they been putting out some kind of reprints of Super NES games, or multiple collections. And like I said, Draken was a very it was an earlier RPG, and it was terrible. It's not Final Fantasy overhead 3D view, but I did see Dragon View had popped up on one of these, so I was kind of hoping it would show up on Nintendo Super NES Online, but I don't know, if it will, because it might be owned by someone else. It might be Retrobit. I think Retrobit might be one of the systems that was re-putting that game out. And Dragon View, like I said, that one is still awesome, because Draken was kind of a letdown as far as a rental game. But Dragon View, which I discovered only, a few years back, it still has the same overhead 3D world, which actually, was really kind of cool for the time as far as Super NES, because it was still a lot of 2D, and you had some 3D. Some of it was not as good. But, Dragon View added in that kind of, I described it as like Zelda 2. I love Battle of Olympus. Had that, 2D feel to it when you went into these caves and such, and you would fight the enemies. And like I said, that's what I really would like to see it on the Nintendo Online. But so many of these titles now, are caught up, because we see these reprints, because a lot of companies are doing these with the Super NES cartridges and such. But man, Super NES is just a really fun system. The Mario Karts. I mean, come on, Street Fighter. That was, key. Street Fighter was key on that one. And it really was just such a, awesome system of that time, a step up. It really did bring the arcade home. We were told that for many years, and lots of times it didn't really pan out. But I think Street Fighter was one of the first games that really hit that. And like I said, renting Draken, big letdown. That was a birthday rental. I don't know why I kept renting RPGs for birthdays. I did that with Ultima and Hydlide, fucking Hydlide.
Oh, geez. Well, back then, the only thing we really had to go by is either like a magazine or, looking on the back of the box. And if the box I remember renting games just because I thought the gameplay looked cool in the back of the box, and there was plenty of times I was burnt with that. One of the things I will say about the Super Nintendo is I feel like the more and more I was thinking about the Super Nintendo, the more and more I thought that this console is so timeless, and I feel like a lot of games have aged really well as opposed to, I would even say as opposed to the NES. I mean, I found myself when the NES games came out for the Switch, I was really excited, but it was more like I was playing it, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay, I was going with the motions, but I was really excited when the Super Nintendo came out for the Switch, because I was like, man, I can play Link to the Past. I can play Super Metroid and Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, Kirby 3. Hell, Kirby's Dream Course. I feel like it's very underrated, like Kirby golf style game. I thought that was a lot of fun. And when I think of Blockbuster, a lot of times when I'm thinking about renting video games, the first console that comes to my mind is Super Nintendo. Renting all the Data East games like Congo's Caper and Rocky Rodent from Irem. I love that game so much. And I don't know, like the Super Nintendo was just such a magical system. I remembered a big deal about the shoulder buttons too. I remember that was a big deal. Like I had so many people say back in the day that a controller had too many buttons, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, where I thought they compacted them so well. We grew up with 2 buttons for so long, and then to give us 6.
Yeah,
and it just basically add that in, like you said, the RPG games. There's so many just regular classics here, Mario's, but then that was the system that really introduced RPGs to so many people. The Final Fantasies that are still games that hold up to now.
Yeah.
It's really hard to push off the final, whatever the actual number of the Final Fantasy is, but for us, the 2, 3, Chrono Trigger, you add those in, it was really that ultimate system. One of the last systems I remember, true co-op, not from Final Fight, of course, but from Rival Turf, which, like I said, probably should have been on that Super NES lineup. One of the last systems that we had that true co-op feel, because when you went on to PS1, you had your fighting games, but those were always opposed. You're always against each other, and you didn't really have that. You could play a game together, but you weren't really together like you were, Rival Turf, Ninja Turtles, Double Dragon, anything like that. It was one of the last systems that gave you that true team up feel. PlayStation kind of gave you that, it was a little bit more singulatory, where it's like you could play it on your own. It's like you weren't really waiting for your friend to come over for the PlayStation as much as you were for, Super NES. It was one of those last team-up systems.
Yeah, and the thing about it is like, you think about it, just about anything they release on the Super Nintendo, like re-release on, like, say, like the Nintendo Switch, people will gladly pay good money for that. When you mention Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy 3, Chrono Trigger, like, if Square was to come out with a Chrono Trigger re-release on the Switch and they were like, yeah, it's $20, I would pay $20 right then and there. I'm like, boom, here, take my money. I mean, think about the Secret of Mana collection. That came out. Folks were buying that off the droves because they wanted to play Trials of Mana, the sequel to Secret of Mana. They wanted to play that. There's just so much. You think about the SNES Mini Classic. I mean, people were buying that just so they could play Star Fox 2 in its original form, a finished product. So, I mean, there's something that can be really said about the Super Nintendo, and I feel like that's the epitome of, like, the Nintendo console, in my opinion, would be the Super Nintendo, Yeah,
they didn't really snag it up again. Like I said, I mean, the most co-op game you could hit since then would be, probably a wrestling title or something on the 64. Of course, I would bring that up, but like I said, it was that last, system that had that, waiting for your friends to come over, that playing together, like I said, you could say a little bit more adultness with the PlayStation because, you're a little bit more on your own and you're playing these games by yourself. Not as many team ups, But like I said, you could have Secret of Mana, which, with the new collection, I don't know if they have like an online feature because that, Secret of Mana did have a, co-op feature on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could do online with the new one, but I'm sure if it ended up on, the Super NES online, that it still could have that. And that's the, that one feature, they can add in, with these games that I always thought was so cool. And people did it on, emulators for a long time was, the online co-op, whether it's, Contra 3 or whatever. If you can still go online with a friend for these old games, that's one of the things that like adds so much. And, that was one of the last things, with the Super NES, whether you were trading off of Mario Brothers, going through together, Mario Kart against each other, it just, there was so much, the fighting. We never got the final fight, of course, but like I said, you could play Rival Turf, and you could go through that together. Ninja Turtles, so many still good beat 'em ups. They had the co-op. It was one of the last great co-op systems before we got, we can't exclude, newer online. Of course, this online came on and progressed. We got to where we could play games together again online, but it really took a while. And, it took a while to, feel it all out. Whereas, with this, we can go back to the Super NES, and we have a lot of these online games and older NES games that we can still, play together.
Indeed.
And, that's the best part of it all. That was the whole thing of gaming, early on for so many of us was playing together.
Indeed. And, we're running a little short on time. So what I'm going to say to the listeners, before we get into games we've been playing recently, I'm going to say to the listeners, leave a comment below. Tell us one of your favorite Super Nintendo memories. Tell us something that you really think about. When you think about the Super Nintendo, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? And get into games we've been playing recently. I've been playing a lot lately, so I want to start with you, James. What have you been playing?
Well, a little bit ago, I got the Man of Medan, which is available on PS4 and Xbox One. It's kind of the follow-up to Until Dawn. I was a huge fan of that game, and I would say if you like Until Dawn, Man of Medan it's kind of the same thing. It actually has a little bit more options, whether it's as we talked about playing together. It's got some couch co-op. It's actually got some online capabilities with it too, which I haven't tried yet, but it's all about you're, on a boat on a little excursion and you get hijacked by some, I'm the captain now. You get that kind of vibe going on, and you end up on this old ghost ship that's like a warship, and you're, walking around. It's all haunted. Lots of choices. It's a $30 game, so it's you have a little bit less choices than you did. One of his less choices than you did have on Until Dawn. It's I've heard it has more branching paths. I would say it's a shorter game, but it has more branching paths. It gives you more options to play. Different endings. I already got a couple people killed. Like I said, if you like Until Dawn, it's definitely a great one. I like the vibe. I like ships. That was why I liked Resident Evil Revelations. I really liked that old, spooky ship. It's like that one's a really cool one. Gears of War 5 just came out. I was playing that a little bit before the show, and I was just going to the tutorial, and tutorials take a little while to get through.
Yeah.
So I can say I haven't played a Gears of War since the first one. So this one's a little bit of a new experience.
That's one of the things about modern gaming that I don't like. Like sometimes I have to get myself in the mood to play a game just for the beginning of how to play, because it's so monotonous. It's like, we all know, okay, well, say you're playing PlayStation. Okay, I'm going to hit X to jump. But it's just like they spend 5 minutes explaining to you how to use the controller. And I hate that so much. So, yeah, sometimes I have to get in the mood to play some of those games. I hate it.
Yeah, that one, like I said, it's still been, like I said, Gears. It's new. It's a hot game. It's available on Game Pass. That was how I ended up playing that. Also, The Messenger. I mentioned before I got the DLC for it, but I had never finished the game. So I'm trying to actually finish The Messenger.
So good.
Yeah, I've been going through it. It's not really as hard as I kind of thought it would be. Really been enjoying that one. And let's see. Was it Ninja Warriors? That was one. That's kind of a game that's kind of pricey. I know it was available, I think, on Sega CD and maybe the Turbo CD. But I got to say, Ninja Warriors, I'm not really a fan. It's kind of like a not as good Shinobi. I don't know, it's so slow. To me.
I was about to say, it's one of those games that I like Ninja Warriors, but I can understand if it's not for everybody, because it's a very slow going one direction game. It's almost like it makes me think of more like games like Last Battle or like Alter Beast more than like Shinobi, because it's like you're constantly walking in one motion and you're just sitting there just killing things. It's one of those things like I feel like if it didn't have as good of a soundtrack, or it didn't have that whole like nostalgia of going to the arcades and seeing it on the widescreen, it wouldn't be a game that would be as popular today, but it's like $7.99, which is kind of expensive on the eShop.
Yeah, I try to get those once in a while because I do like the arcade archives.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. There's a lot of games like Punch Out, that we really hadn't seen before, so it gives us a chance to get some of these, some more expensive games on consoles, a little bit easier. Also, let's see, what's that? Borderlands 3, and that just came out, so I did get the one collection they had recently released, because I got new internet, which has really blown my mind. I would say Blair Witch is another one, which was the first game I downloaded with my new internet, and it downloaded in 5 minutes. The internet has really blown my mind. I had a CenturyLink before, which is always just really slow. Games would take literally, like Ban of Medan, it took so long. The next day I was playing it and it would still freeze up on me.
Oh, wow.
Because it hadn't fully downloaded yet. So this has just been a different experience. I went from 20 megabytes per second to like 200.
Oh, wow.
It's just like, oh man, it was really been like a holy shit, because like I've been downloading a lot more games because they don't take a day and a half to download now. But like I said, if you have Game Pass, which is, I don't know, if you have an Xbox One, I think you should probably have Game Pass, because it gives you so many options. Like I said, Gears, just day one, anything Microsoft is out there. Blair Witch is one I thought was really cool that was on there. I have not really played into it that much. I did discover the online feature because I have a lot of friends that have an Xbox, so I've actually ventured into just hanging out and talking with a lot of friends while everybody's playing a different game. Because I thought we were playing a game together, and that was actually not the case. I'm like, what are we doing? What's going on? They're like, oh no, we're just hanging out. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, just party chat, yeah.
I'm like, oh, cool. Like, it's even easier. So I was just hanging out, talking with friends. But like I said, Blair Witch is on there. Like I said, I'm going through Messenger because I just really, I stopped before and I really wanted to go through and beat that, because I heard the game really changes up once you kind of beat it. And then there's also this DLC. I'm trying to see what else is there. That's about the most of it. And then I've been playing with my cats, trying to not get her to eat paper clips, because that's what she was chewing on earlier. And I was like, "What are you chewing on?" I'm like, "It's a fucking paper clip." I'm like, "What? Why are you eating a paper clip?" Like, this cat, she loves hair ties, and I have a little box of hair ties, and I even turned the box so she can just take them whenever she wants, and that's her favorite thing in the world. But yet she's still chewing on a fucking paper clip. But that's what cats do. So yeah, that's been mine. I'm just it's cats and playing games when I can.
Yeah.
Old man life.
Well, my I've some of the games I've been playing. I got some reviews already up for them. River City Girls. I've been playing that, really enjoying it. I really like the new take that Way Forward has done with the Kunio-kun kind of like spin-off game with River City Ransom. That was a lot of fun. Sydney Hunter and the Curse of the Mayans. Again, big shout out to Metal Jesus for having a contest on his Metal Jesus Rocks group page. It was like they had a contest. They're like, yeah, first 15 people that post a picture of their Switch home screen gets a free code for Sydney Hunter. And I saw it like the minute it was posted, and I had my Switch with me, so I'm like, okay, I'll do this. And I ended up getting a code, and I did a review of that. A lot of fun. And then I went on PS3 of all things. I went on the PSN store. And I realized there are so many PS2 and PlayStation 1 classics that are dirt cheap on the PSN store on PS3. I ended up buying Silent Hill, Mega Man Legends 2, ended up buying Neo Contra and Contra Shattered Soldier, And
that's a hard one.
yeah, and I ended up buying, I think, like one more game I'm trying to think of. Oh, Castlevania Chronicles. I bought like 5 games, and it was like less than $20. You know, a lot of these games were like $1.99, $1.75. So I was like, oh, hell, why not? So I went ahead and bought those. But I've been having a lot of fun with that. I hooked up the PS2 and realized that on PS2 is out of commission. I'm gonna have to buy another one later, which thank God they're dirt cheap. I think it just in the middle of moving, I think it just got damaged because it's like it won't read the disc unless you like put something on top of the PS2, like some sort of pressure.
Yeah, like a little bit of weight. I've had those issues before.
Yeah, it's like that. And then also, I could not find my memory card, so I went to Game Giant, bought a new memory card today. They're like $10. Went and bought a memory card, and for some reason, it's not recognizing a memory card is in the game. Like it recognizes the memory card on the browser menu. Like I was like looking at it, and I'm like, it showed save files, but when I go to play a game, it was like you can't save. There's no memory card. So regardless, I'm like, you know what? It's a PS2. They're dirt cheap. It's not like a TurboGrafx or Neo Geo or Sega CD add-on or something like that. So
definitely, yeah, it's definitely was gettable. I would say too for Sydney Hunter, that's a game. I watched your review on it. I know at first, like I'd commented, I was like, this game looks cool. I'm like, not sure if it's worth. I don't know if I want to spend 20. And I want to give, credit to Gamester81, John Lester, who actually, he liked my comment of saying, this looks cool. Not sure if I want to spend $20 on it. He was involved in that game. I really thought that was cool of him. And actually watching your review, that one really, made me want to play that game more.
It's so good. It is so good, man.
And Gamester's one I've never had anything, bad to say about. It's been on our show before. He's always been a really cool guy, and like I said, he's involved in that series, and it does look like a really fun game. My main thing with the $20 is because often if I buy a game on Switch, the next week it's on sale. I would say City Hunter is a game like it's 20. If it was 15, I definitely would buy it for sure, and I might just snag it up for the 20. Like I said, I appreciate John even being involved, liking my comment. I thought that was just funny, and it looks like a fun game. I love Indiana Jones style type games, and it looks like one. If you like that, that would be a really fun one to play. Like I said, it looks a little tough. Like you said about the not having as many save points and such on it. But if you like that, if you're into Pitfall, that old school, type of game, it looks like a really fun one. It looks like they put a lot into it. And like you said, there's so many different versions of City Hunter over the years on some of the older consoles that you can get and play. It's kind of a newer, retro series that's been going on for a while. Like I said, really cool looking. Actually, I'm really looking forward to playing that one at some point.
It went above my expectations. I mean, I figured it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was. Because like the main thing that I always push about this game is it has its own identity. It doesn't feel like, oh, well, this is a game made by a bunch of guys who are nostalgic about the NES that really loved playing Castlevania. It feels like a brand new IP. It feels like something that I would have played back in the day on the NES, So, yeah, for folks that are listening that are on the fence, be sure to check out the review I did for Sydney Hunter, Curse of the Mines. It's like a 5-minute video. It's not a long review. But I gave it a 9 out of 10, and I stand by that. I thought it was a really good game. It's got a lot of replay value. There's multiple endings as well. And the fact you have to collect these skulls to kind of open up the next levels is kind of like almost like the stars in Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario 64. Like you had to collect 20 stars to open up the portal to the next level. That's kind of how it is in this Mayan temple. So, I mean, sometimes you go back to levels and you're like, okay, I gotta collect more skulls. So it's got a lot of content to it. For $20, I was like, this isn't too bad. I mean, personally, I have heard that they're going to make a physical copy in the future. If they make a physical copy, I'll probably buy that just to continue to support the company Collector Vision Games. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Like we said, buy back into these guys, try if you can, try not to rip these guys off. Go into, help them out, because these guys have been continuously making games. They're obviously going to keep on doing it. You know, there's love involved with it, and you know, a lot of people that, you know, loved a lot of things we loved, and they're trying to bring things back. You know, there's so many options, whether you're old school, new school, no matter what you like, man, there's like something out there you can find. But we gotta, you know, we really gotta keep this process going, and, you know, allow these guys, you know, their vision, you know, to make newer games that we're gonna love. But in order to do that, you gotta support them and put in a little bit of money. So don't be a cheap ass, you know, come on.
Indeed, indeed. And with that, it's going to conclude another episode of XSGaming Podcast. I want to thank you guys for checking us out and listening. And, be sure to check out the playlist on YouTube if you're listening to this on YouTube, because we have a bunch more episodes. And, we're hopefully we'll be back very soon. Everything's been kind of sporadic and crazy because of the hurricane. There's actually another hurricane out in the Atlantic that's being it's not a hurricane yet, but it's going to be a hurricane. Hopefully it doesn't.
Well, yeah, October sometimes is our month for when we get hit. So, you know, we're trying to get back on a regular schedule. Like Xander said, it's been a little bit, you know, sporadic, but we're trying to get back on that. And hopefully, you know, maybe at some point we'll be back up to our, you know, 2 episodes a month again.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we thank you all for sticking with us. You know, like I said, we're trying. Things happen. Life happens. I'm old. I'm sorry. My fault.
Indeed. As always, guys, thanks for listening. And as always, happy gaming.
Have a pleasant evening, everybody.